Are you a Muslim and curious about the truth? Then I have a question for you. Do you know the story of Muhammad when he was in the cave of Hira, when he received his first revelation from the angel? And do you also believe that Muhammad's calling as a prophet and his spiritual revelation that he received there, that it follows the same pattern as Moses and the other prophets had? If your answer to that is yes, then I want to take a look with you at what the Islamic sources say. We look in Al-Bukhari 3 and we read the story. The beginning of the divine revelation to the messenger of Allah came in the form of good dreams, which came true like bright daylight. After that, he was given the love for seclusion. He used to withdraw to the cave of Hira, where he worshipped Allah alone for many days in a row, before he again felt the desire to see his family. He took food with him for his stay and then returned to his wife, Khadija, to take food with him again, until suddenly the truth descended upon him while he was in the cave of Hira. The angel came to him and said that he had to read. The Prophet answered, I cannot read. The Prophet added, the angel grabbed me forcefully and pressed me so hard that I could no longer bear it. After that, he let me go and asked me to read again. And I answered, I cannot read. Then he grabbed me again and pressed me a second time until I could no longer bear it. After that, he let me go and asked me to read again. But again I answered, I cannot read. Or what should I read? Then he grabbed me for a third time and pressed me and then let me go and said, read in the name of your Lord who created you. I cannot read. Created man from a blood clot red. And your Lord is the most generous. And these words, they are in Surah 96, verses 1 through 5. Those are the first words that Muhammad received in the cave of Hira. After that, the messenger of Allah returned with the revelation. While his heart beat violently, he went to Khadija and said, cover me, cover me. And she covered him until his fear was gone. After that, he told her everything that had happened and said, I fear something bad may happen to me. And Khadija answered, never, by Allah. Allah will never humiliate you. You maintain family ties, help the poor and the needy, are hospitable, and assist those who are struck by misfortune. Then Khadija went with him to her cousin, Waraka. He had become a Christian in the time before Islam and wrote with Hebrew letters. He was an old man and had become blind. Khadija said to Waraka, listen to the story of your nephew, O my nephew. And Waraka asked, O my nephew, what have you seen? The messenger of Allah described everything he had seen. Waraka said, this is the same angel who keeps the secrets, the angel Gabriel, whom Allah sent to Moses. Let's take a look at what did Waraka compare Muhammad's experience. What was Waraka thinking about? Because the Quran had not yet been revealed. Well, he had to think of Moses. When Moses was first called as a prophet at the burning bush on Sinai, did Waraka have the Quran in his time, which also contained the burning bush experience and the calling of Moses and Mount Sinai? The answer is no. Only Surah 96 verse 1 to 5 had been revealed at that time. So Waraka could not yet have the Quranic description of that meeting of Moses with God. That was yet to be revealed. So Waraka had to make do with the revelation that existed at that time from the Torah. Or he had to make do with the legends of the Jews, which at that time were gradually being described in the oral Torah by the rabbinic Jews. There, Moses and his experience at the burning bush and Sinai are also spoken of, and that he is called as a prophet for the first time. So that's what Waraka might have thought of. And do you know in which text passages this experience of Moses is found in the Torah? That is in Exodus 3 and 4. But how can Waraka know that it was the same angel? Because in Exodus 3 and 4, the angel of the Lord is mentioned. And Muhammad had also met an angel. So hey, there we see a similar pattern. There we see the same patterns in the stories. Moses was also alone on the mountain. He was also called there. He had an encounter there. On that mountain, just as Muhammad had an encounter in the cave of Hira. So Waraka was not in the cave of Hira. Waraka was not with Moses. How can Waraka then still know that he met the same angel? That must, of course, be because Waraka thought it was so similar, that their experiences were so similar, and we are going to investigate that. Is the experience of Muhammad similar to the experience of Moses? And is it the same angel that they met? And that comparison, we're going to do that by reading in Exodus 3. It says, "And Moses was tending the flock of his father-in-law Jethro, the priest of Midian. He drove the livestock beyond the desert, and he came to the mountain of God, Horeb. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire from the midst of the thorn bush." The angel of the Lord. Moses watched, and behold, the thorn bush burned in the fire, but the thorn bush was not consumed. And Moses said, "Let me now go and look at this impressive phenomenon, why the thorn bush does not burn up." When the Lord saw that he went to look, God called to him from the midst of the thorn bush and said, "Moses, Moses." And Moses said, "Behold, here I am." And then he is going to give Moses a task, give him a calling, appoint him as a prophet to his people. But 5 times Moses refuses to go. And although he is full of awe for God and covers his face before God, he is therefore not so afraid that he does not dare to go against God. He goes against God 5 times. And God gives him encouragement 5 times. He says, "You will worship me here again with the people on Mount Sinai. You may make my name known. I give you 3 miracles to convince the people and its elders." He says, "I will be with your mouth. I will be your mouth. I will help you to speak what you must speak." And he gives him Aaron, his brother, to speak for him. And God says, "And you have received this task from me, and you must carry out this task." And then we see in the further course that God even sends Aaron to him already. And when Moses then comes to him, Aaron believes that he is a prophet. In fact, Moses himself believes after that encounter with God. Because that angel of the Lord is God. Because he reveals himself as God, as Yahweh. And at the moment that Moses does not want to and finally gives in, at that moment he believes that he is a prophet sent by God with a mission to free the people of Israel from the slavery of Egypt. He is completely convinced of that. He doesn't want to, but in the end he does it anyway. 2, when he then arrives at Aaron's, he performs the signs, then he speaks with Aaron. Aaron says that he has also been called by God. And Aaron believes at that point that he is a prophet and that he has a mission. 3, Aaron and Moses go together to the elders and to the people of Israel. There they perform the miracles. There Moses tells that he has met Yahweh. There he tells the name. There he performs the miracles. And do the elders and the people of Israel believe that he is a prophet with a mission? Yes. They throw themselves on the earth and thank God that Moses has been sent with this mission to free them. And if we compare that with the pattern of Muhammad, when Muhammad was pressed down with force, with violence, so that he can no longer bear it, comes back afraid, blankets have to be laid over him, and that he says, "I'm afraid that something terrible is happening to me." When we read that story, does he believe at that point that he is a called prophet with a mission? No, not yet. He's afraid that something terrible is happening to him. And Khadijah says, "No, you haven't fallen from grace because look, you're a good person." So at that point, Khadijah doesn't believe that something bad is happening to him. And she doesn't believe that he's a bad person. No, she confirms to him, "You are a good person." But does she say at this point, "You're a prophet of God. You've come with a mission from God"? No. They're actually both still in a state of uncertainty. Therefore, for that reason, they go to Waraka. Because they know Waraka has a lot of knowledge of the previous scriptures. Then they come to Waraka, and Waraka says, "Hey, you've met the same angel that Moses met, the angel Gabriel." But if we compare the stories of Exodus 3 and 4 from the Torah, and we compare Sahih al-Bukhari 3, then we see that their experience doesn't follow the same pattern at all. Because Moses himself believed, Aaron believed, the people and the elders believed. And eventually the Egyptians also believe after 10 plagues. The Egyptians believe and they are driven out and slavery is broken. But Muhammad, he is driven out by his tribe, by the people in Mecca. And he leaves there and goes to Medina. So we clearly see that it doesn't form the same pattern. We clearly see that the angel is also not the same angel, because there in the Torah he is called the angel of the Lord, and it turns out to be God himself. It turns out to be Yahweh. So how could Waraka come up with the idea that it's the same angel? Well, that actually comes from the Midrash. Here, it specifically says Louis Ginzberg, The Legends of the Jews, which is a well-known collection of traditional Jewish stories and interpretations. And in that book, the experience of the burning bush is also described in detail, and it says on page 302, you can find this particular account. The fire that Moses saw in the bush was actually the appearance of the angel Michael. And in another place in the Midrash, it is also said, in Exodus Rabbah chapter 2, verse 5, it says that the angel in the burning thorn bush is Gabriel. So some rabbis say it was Michael. Other rabbis say it was Gabriel. So how could Waraka know that it was Gabriel? Not from the Torah. Because there the angel of the Lord is never called Gabriel. Never? That idea, that comes from the Midrash. And besides, when Moses sets out for Egypt, he is also attacked by two angels. There he has a similar experience to the one Moses had. Because it says, for his lack of faith, Moses was punished. So because of his lack of faith, Moses was punished while he was on the road to Egypt. And that is much more like the experience that Mohammed had. The angels Af and Hema appeared and swallowed his whole body down to his feet, and they gave him up. Only after Zipporah, nimble as a bird, circumcised her son Gershom. And when Moses was released by the angels, he attacked them. So then Moses attacked that angel. If we take the Midrash, then we see very clearly that there is a pattern. Then we see that it is said that it concerns the angel Gabriel or Michael, one of the archangels. And there we clearly see that there was an attack by the angels on Moses. And then we see the same thing as Muhammad being pressed down and that he could no longer bear it. Yes, then we do see the pattern, but if we look at the Torah, we don't see the pattern. So Muhammad's spiritual experience did not follow the same pattern as the earlier revelations and the earlier prophets like Moses. Unfortunately, Muhammad could not verify the claims of people like Waraka or the later rabbis who gave him false information, who convinced him that he was a prophet of God for their truthfulness.